What's a word you pronounced incorrectly one time and it still haunts you to this day? I'll go first.
Okay, so I've been married for 20 years, going on 21, to the love of my life. When we got married, there were like probably 200 something people at our wedding. Mom, dad, brother, sister, cousins, aunt, uncle, grandparents, you name it. So we get to the part where we're repeating our vows, and the pastor says for me to say, "With this ring I thee wed." And your boy said, "With this wang I thee wed." So of course my boys are laughing, my mom is embarrassed, my mother-in-law rolls her eyes, but asked me if I regret it. Absolutely not.
What's a word you pronounced incorrectly one time and it still haunts you to this day?
The word was pneumonia, okay? We've all heard the word. I feel like we're all very common with the word pneumonia. Hey, fun fact, it has a P in front of it, just in case you want to know. So we were popcorn reading in class, and the word pneumonia came up, and I was a little reader at the time. I still kind of am, but I used to literally read like 2 books a week. That's a little much, maybe 1 book a week. I loved being teacher's little pet. So while we were popcorn reading, it wasn't my turn yet. They paused on the word pneumonia for a second, and I said, Femanoma. Femanoma. And my best friend, Audrey, looks at me and goes, "That's pneumonia." And I felt fucking stupid the rest of the class. And when it came to my turn, I did not speak up again for popcorn reading for quite some time. And I'll never live it down. Pneumonia, femanoma.
What's a word you pronounced incorrectly one time and it still haunts you to this day?
So, tell them.
Hippopotamus, hipponominous, hipponominous, hippopotamus, 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 hippopotamus.
It's hippopotamus. Hippopotamus.
Okay, but why are you yelling though? Hippopotamus. I think I said it.
Hippopotamus.
Hipponominous. Hippopotamus. Hipponominous. Hippopotamus. Hipponominous. Hippo. Hippopotamus. Hippo. Potaminous. Hippopotamus. Hippo. Potamus. Hipponominous. I'm saying it like you do. He's so annoying. Hippopotamus.
What's a word you pronounced incorrectly one time and it still haunts you to this day?
Hey, yeah, what'd they do to your eyes that one time?
Validated.
What?
Validated.
What'd they do?
They validated the eyes.
Did it help?
So. You think I have miracles happen?
Can you see better?
What's a word you pronounced incorrectly one time and it still haunts you to this day? I'll go first.
Okay, so my little brother he's really not that little, he's 23. Only recently did he discover that the name of your Adam's apple is not named after every single man. Let me explain. So my brother's name is Adam. So he thought every man gets an individual one. So like, for example, my husband's would be Matt's apple and my dad's would be Angela's apple. And when we started calling other people's Adam's apple, he was like, "That's my name."
What's a word you pronounced incorrectly one time and it still haunts you to this day?
Me.
What's a word you pronounced incorrectly one time and it still haunts you to this day?
This is one of the most traumatizing interactions I've ever had in my entire life. So me and my boyfriend went to go pick up dinner at this place we always get dinner from, and he stayed in the car. I ran in to get the order, but before I got out, he was like, "Oh, make sure you get some of the sauce I like. It's called buffalo." And I was like, "You mean buffalo, right?" And he was like, "No, like it's called buffalo. I know it sounds weird, but like they have this special sauce they make, and I really like it." With a straight face. And so I was like, okay, like sounds accurate. So I walk in, I pick up the order, and I'm like, "Oh, my boyfriend asked if you could put some of your special sauce called buffalo." And he's like, "You mean buffalo, right?" I'm like, "No." No. He said buffalo. He said buffalo sauce. It's your special sauce. This man looks at me like I am insane, clinically insane. And he goes back and just puts some random sauce in the bag. Was like, here you go. So I go out to the car and I hand the bag to my boyfriend. I was like, yeah, they didn't have any of that like sauce that you wanted. And he was like, what sauce? What are you talking about? I was like, your buffalo sauce. He started cracking up. He was like, Ashley, I was kidding. I thought he was kidding, but he kept reiterating it in my head that he really liked this sauce and that he knew the name was weird, but they had this sauce he liked. I cried the entire way home and I almost broke up with him.
English word you have been mispronouncing your entire life?
So bet. This one was made for me. So I grew up in a Spanish household. My whole life, we would say, hey, for the dishes, like there's a dish soap called palmolive, right? My whole life. I'm 32. I now live with my boyfriend. We've been living together for like 5 or 6 years. One day I was like, hey, when you go to the store, can you pick up some palmolive? And he's like, the what? I'm like, the dish soap palmolive, you know, like the dish soap. And I show him, like I send him a picture or something. I don't know what happened. But he's like, you mean palm olive? When I tell you that my mind was goddamn blown right at that moment when I saw like the spelling of it, I was like, never in my 32 years did I put 2 and 2 together. My whole life, it's been palmolive. You can't tell me goddamn otherwise. Palmolive and palmolive will stay, not palm olive. What is that?
What's a word you pronounced incorrectly one time and it still haunts you to?
So not that long ago, I had like a headache or cramps or something, and I was with my mom. And I was like, oh, Mom, do you have any acetaminophen? And she's like, what's acetaminophen? I'm like, like Tylenol. I have never seen my mother look so disappointed and amused at the same time. She's like, acetaminophen? Like, since when? They definitely changed it.
What's a word you pronounced incorrectly one time and it still haunts you to this day?
Oh my God. Okay, I literally forgot about this until this video literally opened up like a realm in my brain. So my aunt was a teacher at the school K through 8 that I attended. It was all the way from kindergarten to 8th grade. And I believe I was in like 6th or 7th grade, old enough to like feel embarrassed. And she also helped out with like after school care. And I got selected to be the book reader for the day. I walked up there. I sat on that rocking chair and I held up that book, pictures, words, and all. And all of a sudden, in a room full of kindergarteners, 1st graders, 2nd graders, 3rd graders, teachers, faculty, and staff, this word pops up. And I confidently said vagina. What? They all started laughing at me. The freaking kindergartners. Vagina. What the frick?
What's a word you pronounced incorrectly one time and it still haunts you?
I thought the time that you get off to like grieve a loss was called beaverment. And I said that to a lot of people in conversations that, yeah, this job offers beaverment. It wasn't until about 2 weeks ago that someone told me it's bereavement. So sorry to everyone who I probably deeply offended.
What's a word you pronounced incorrectly one time and it still haunts you to this day?
I'd never seen this word written down until I did a table read in high school for the play Arsenic and Old Lace, where I was Officer O'Malley. And I'm reading my big monologue for the first time at this table. I'm a sophomore. I have a crush on all these junior and senior girls. And doing a bad accent as Officer O'Malley, I'm reading. And there she was, lying there in her lingerie. Big laugh. Never seen the word lingerie before. And they laughed. The girls laughed. This is why we should invade France.
What's a word you pronounced incorrectly one time and it still haunts you to this?
Okay, mine was more of a misunderstanding, but it was so traumatic, I've never stopped thinking about it. I used to work at this really nice boutique hotel, and one evening I was hosting wine hour, and I don't know shit about wine or cheese, but the restaurant made this beautiful spread with this cheese board, and this couple walks up to me, and they were so chic, like I was so intimidated. I think they were from New York, I don't know, they're so fancy, and they said, we have got to know what this cheese is. It is divine. And it wasn't Velveeta, so I didn't have a damn clue. So I'm like, let me go find out for y'all. I walk over to my GM. I'm like, these guests are bugging over this cheese. What the hell is it? He said it's pork rind. And I remember thinking like, well, shit, like I know we're in the South, but that seems so redneck. But again, I didn't know any better. So I walked back over to them and I'm trying to like impress them a little bit. And I said, y'all are not going to believe this. That cheese is made of pork rinds. And then they looked back at me and they were like, do you maybe mean port wine? And I said, no, my GM told me it's made of pork rinds.
What's a word you pronounced incorrectly one time and it still haunts you to this day?
No, by the way, no one has more of these than I do. Okay, the first one, I'm going to do 3 because I have 3 wicked bad ones. This first one, embossy suits. Embossy suits is how I said that. Saranwap. Saranwap, not saran wrap. Saranwap. By the way, rap has an R in it. I guess I just dropped the R. Saranwap. And my personal favorite, and this is not a fucking joke nor a drill, bibble. Bibble is what I said to that. And I'll actually never forget it. Honestly, I was in a Barnes & Noble. I was 12 years old. And my whole family like kind of took a look at me and really contemplated the type of human that they brought into the world. Bibble is what I said. I have an education. Like I'm literate. I can read. And that's what I said.
What's a word you pronounced incorrectly one time and it still haunts you to this day? I'll go first. I was in a high school history class, so way too old for this to be happening. And I was reading out of a textbook. So everybody's following along and this word pops up. So I pronounced it stalamate. I thought it was a Spanish word. We were talking about the Civil War. I make memes on TikTok now. What's a word you pronounced incorrectly one time and it still haunts you to this day?
The way I'm crying, laughing in my bed, this is my moment. This is my time to tell my story. I am a social media manager. And I thought... Okay, sorry. I was in a meeting. I have like a big girl job. I'm a social media manager for a clothing company, Show Me Your Moo. And I was in a meeting, our content strategy meeting. I thought the word archive was pronounced archive. So I said with confidence, I found the story analytics in the archives. And they said...
My whole life has been a lie. I've been saying this word my entire life. No one has ever said anything to me, corrected me, nothing. So I'm sitting there talking to my husband. I start laughing. He's like, why are you laughing? I'm like, I just gleaned it on my phone. He said, what? I said, I just gleaned it on my phone. And he's looking at me crazy and I'm looking at him crazy like, what's the problem? He's like, I don't understand what that means. What do you mean? What did you do? I'm like, I don't know another word for it. I'm like, I just like, you know, when water comes out of your mouth, but it's not like spit. It's like water just like out of your mouth. I'm like, that's what happened to me on my phone. So then he's looking at me crazy again. So I look at him crazy. I'm like, let me Google. I can't believe you never heard this word. Let me Google it. Let me show y'all what gleet means. If you are any type of friend, do not ever let your friend say this or any other word inaccurately. But also, I want to know who taught me this, because I've been saying this word since I was like 6. Who taught me this word?
What's a word you pronounced incorrectly one time and it still haunts you to this day? I'll go first.
This word caused me to drop out of grad school. Yeah, No, I pronounced it incorrectly while I was reading aloud to the class, which I don't know why we're doing in grad school, but whatever. I pronounced it wrong, and as soon as the professor corrected me, I dropped out the next morning. I did not belong there. So, this is the word. How do you say it? You probably said it correctly. I said paradigm. Paradigm. That's not a word. I tried.
What's a word you pronounced incorrectly one time and it still haunts you to this day? I'll go first.
I cannot be the only one. Try 18 years of mispronouncing a word. It was not until I went to college that I realized that I had been saying this word wrong for 18 years. I am from a very small town in North Carolina. My dad's a pastor, so I grew up going to a lot of weddings. So at the end of the wedding, when the pastor would say, "I now pronounce you Mr. N," the word that is on the screen, it was not until I went to college that I realized that not only me, but everyone in my world has been pronouncing this word wrong. My friends, my family, my classmates, my teachers. Alright, so this is... I now pronounce you Mr. and Mrs. Thompson. Mrs. We would sound it out. M-R-S. Mrs. My school teacher. Mrs. Smith. Mrs. 18 years. But yet we want to ban books.
What's a word you pronounced incorrectly one time and it still haunts you to this day?
Man's laughter. Man's laughter. 15 to 20 for laughing.